Entrepreneurially Thinking is a presentation of BioSTL and CET, the Center for Emerging Technologies, with Rare Gem Productions, changing the way you view new ventures, including you on the pathway to success with your business in the St. Louis marketplace and beyond. Here's your hosts, Cheryl and Christy. Now let's get thinking entrepreneurially.
Welcome to the Entrepreneurially Thinking podcast. Our goal is to energize your entrepreneurial mindset and create pathways for business success in the St. Louis marketplace and beyond. I'm Christy Maxfield, Director of Entrepreneur Development Services at the Center for Emerging Technologies.
Hi, and I'm Cheryl Watkins-Moore, the Director of Bioscience Inclusion for BioSTL.
Hello.
How are you, darling?
I am well.
We are back here again. This is fun. I think this is going to be a great episode.
No doubt. And as always, we are here to help you think new and differently about the opportunities in your life. We're all about stepping outside our comfort zone.
Yes.
So as I continue to step outside of my comfort zone, I invite you to continue to step outside of your comfort zone so that we can help you be more than you've ever thought you could be. We want to encourage you to carve out this time to think about your opportunities and business goals and new ways. And we want to peel away any limitations you might have about how you think about small business, working for yourself, or being entrepreneurial right where you are. Of course, you can stay connected with us because I know you can't get enough. And everyone else listening to Entrepreneurially Thinking on your favorite streaming platforms, or visit us at entrepreneuriallythinking.com. Follow the hashtag ETHINKSTL.
Well, today, Christy,
yes,
I think we've got something really, really cool here. We're talking with two local entrepreneurs who are part of an exploding segment on the startup scene, health tech. Health tech is one sliver of a much larger Internet of Things category of innovation. Think digital thermostats that you can program from your phone, which I think is really cool because, you know, in my household, you know,
everybody has a particular temperature.
Yes.
So is somebody in charge?
Me.
Okay.
And I need to be able to do this from my phone.
Awesome.
Or even pill dispensers that can text you when your loved ones take their daily prescriptions. Really, the Internet of Things is on and all around us.
I'm wearing a wearable.
You got
right
your
now,
wearable on?
I got my wearable.
Your Fitbit.
Half the world has a wearable.
Yep.
But there's lots going on.
Yep. Well, Accenture Consulting recently reported that the value of the Internet of Health Things will top, get this, $163 billion by 2020.
2020 used to seem really far away.
It is not that far away.
It's like 3 years. Less than 3 years.
Exactly. So $163 billion, that's a really awesome goal. Within the next 5 years, the healthcare sector is projected to be number one in the list of top 10 industries for Internet of Things app development.
That's a lot.
Yes. To get a local perspective on what this means and what it means to be on the leading edge of this wave, we've invited Elizabeth Russell, co-founder and CEO of DataDog Health, and Daniel Kapper, co-founder of MediModo, to join us in studio. We'll be right back to get that conversation started. So, as always, stay listening.
Now here's Make It Happen with Keith Sales Pro.
How do highly successful people think? According to author Tom Black, a boxcar millionaire, here are 5 beliefs. Successful people believe that people are as happy as they want to be. Successful people always are persistent, even in the face of disappointment. Successful people believe you must constantly improve your knowledge and skills. Successful people believe big, even when dealing with small-minded people. And finally, successful people believe you must be truly committed to being of service to others. Today, remember, it can happen. It will happen. And together, we will make it happen.
Follow Keith Sales Pro on Facebook or Twitter at Keith Sales Pro, or visit his website at keithsalespro.com.
It can happen. It will happen. And together, we will make it happen.
I'm Elizabeth Russell, CEO of DataDog Health, and thinking entrepreneurial means being extremely flexible, not only what you do day to day, but in your overall vision for what success means.
Elizabeth and Daniel, thank you so much for joining us. Before we dive into learning more about your companies and exploring all the exciting things going on in the Internet of Health Things, I would love for you to just start by telling us a little bit about yourself. Elizabeth, can you introduce yourself to our listeners?
I sure hope so.
You are the best suited for it, so I have no doubt that you'll be able to.
I think so. I'm Elizabeth Russell. I co-founded DataDog Health with my partner, Ravi. My background is in biomedical engineering, and I spent some time working at Epic with their EMR system and realized that where I really needed to be is in digital tech innovation.
So EMR, that's electronic medical records?
Mm-hmm. Electronic medical records.
Okay. And that helped you realize you had to be in this other space. What did you realize while you were working there?
I realized there's a lot of room for innovation in how physicians are interacting with their software systems.
Okay.
Or not.
Or not.
Exactly. So speaking as a physician who did not.
You did not interact well? You didn't have a close bonded relationship
well
with your EMR?
Because it was such challenge to work with. So anything to make it easier for physicians to get engaged, I think is, you will be very successful in the healthcare arena because they're your customers and you want them to interact, right?
So, yeah. So you took your academic experience and then went and got some real-world experience, and from there were able to see some of the opportunities in the market.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, awesome.
Well, I want to start. Why did you get involved with biomedical engineering? It's a hot area to get involved with. So tell our listeners, what made you decide on that major?
It was really a competitive spirit, heat-of-the-moment decision.
Ooh.
And
did somebody challenge you? Like, I dare you to do biomedical engineering. I double dog dare you.
You know what? They kind of did.
Oh, cool.
Really? Tell us the story.
I felt a lot of pressure. I was an undergrad at WashU at the time, and I was selecting my courses, and I found biomedical engineering was kind of speaking to me. But I came as an anthropology major with pretty weak background in mathematics and science. But the classes spoke to me, and I talked to an advisor who simply said, and probably did not mean to put me down in any way, but simply said that the biomedical engineering program had a very high dropout rate.
Really?
And so I took that as a challenge.
There you go.
And I got straight B's and C's, and I graduated college and became an entrepreneur.
Well,
awesome.
As I said, you know what? When you graduate with an MD, guess what? You can be number 1 or number 291. You still have doctorate before your name, right? And the initials after.
Absolutely. That's wonderful because most people shy away from things that they don't think they can do 110%. And, if they can't be number 1 necessarily, they're not interested in doing that. And you took the challenge was stick it out.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
And she wasn't a biology major, right?
I was
anthropology.
Anthropology. I just wanted to study everything.
There you go. Internet of Things. That's how she found out.
Awesome.
She wound up.
Well, let's find out a little bit about Daniel, and then we can find out more about both of their companies. So, Daniel, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I went to Missouri State for computer science. I've always been interested in entrepreneurship, and so another reason why I got into computer science, I was a little bit late on getting a laptop before college. Okay. And so when I got one, I got to hack into my neighbor's Wi-Fi. and from there, I just kind of really liked computers and programming. So I called up the person in charge of computer science at Missouri State and got into the program. And I guess that's that. And entrepreneurship has been a very interesting topic for me for a long time. And I didn't really get into entrepreneurship until probably after school, but when I did, I was so addicted to learning new things. And I mean, a lot of learning, but then there's learning and execution. So I kind of had a lot of learning. And then when I finally switched over to execution, I really realized that all that learning really, helped.
So you did not go from school to a company to work. You went from school to your business?
Oh, no.
Tell us that path.
I worked at a few companies, but ultimately I've always been working on side projects. And that's how I got into the space that I'm in now.
Okay.
I started building an application. Actually, it was for people who are bipolar. And I chose bipolar because, unlike depression, there's obvious signs. And obviously, there's obvious signs of depression, but it's a huge spectrum. But bipolar is easy to understand certain phases and unique only to bipolar. So an application that asks questions at the right time to figure out where you are in your bipolar stage, because there's different stages. And once you're being treated, you should fall into a different stage as well. Or it could go bad too. But hopefully throughout time with treatment and trying to take care of yourself, and you should get better, and the questions should change, and so you know you're on the right track.
I was going to say recover. It helps physicians to be able to understand where these patients are and what they're doing, tracking their symptoms, correct?
Yeah, and so doctors really only get to experience just a small portion of you. And really, I think they're good at writing prescriptions, but you have to go home and you have to do the majority of the work. And so if you're doing that work, and then you can present information to your physician, I think treatment would go faster and better.
I mean, it helps the doctor to see the patient not only in an office setting, but to also see that patient when they're out of the office and what's going on with them. So there's technologies that are being developed, as we know, right here in the St. Louis market that's tracking patients and what they're doing outside of the physician office. It helps them become, you're treating that patient better, and the patient then becomes part of their treatment plan too. Right.
And that's where both of your companies sort of, that space you fall into, right? Yeah. Is that time outside the office when lots of things are happening, impacting different diagnoses and conditions, and what can happen from there. So can you explain DataDog Health, and Mindset is your flagship product. Can you explain a little bit more about the company and what it is that Mindset does?
Absolutely. So it really dovetails nicely with what you were saying, Daniel, about having this ability to understand the patient outside of the doctor's office and bring some of those insights back to the doctor. And if you don't mind, I'll back it up to the very beginning of the company. There was a dialogue a few years ago in the St. Louis community about veterans' mental health. And we heard this dialogue, and at the time, Ravi and I were kind of hungry for entrepreneurship. We just met. We had fun at a conference, creating a business plan and placing in this competition. And so we thought, let's bring our talents together. Let's do something. Let's do something for our community. And we heard that veterans were having a tough time getting access to mental health care for various reasons. Right. And when we looked at it, we saw an enormous potential in the digital health space. And so we thought, why can't we leverage our biomedical engineering backgrounds and build a utility that doesn't just sit in your pocket passively, but can be activated by both the user, their physiological signals, and their caregiver to help provide them with care.
Awesome.
Exactly. So we've built a mental health application. It reaches out to the patient in between therapy appointments, gives them a variety of skills to practice. Like it could be as simple as a breathing exercise or a little bit more complex, like a cognitive behavioral therapy journal where you assess your emotions and you're brought through a thought disputation workflow.
Wow. So how long ago did you guys start this company? You and Ravi?
Yeah, Ravi and I started working on it as more of a student side project. Daniel mentioned that side projects are the lifeblood of entrepreneurship, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. And about 2 years ago is when we really started getting serious and putting the pedal to the metal. So I've been full-time on the project for about 2 years.
So do you all have any pilots out there where you have people using the technology or organizations using it?
Yeah, we're doing some really great research over here at WashU Med with some community-based veterans organizations who are trying out a version of Mindset that uses wearables to kind of predict stress events and give them something to do in the height of a stress event for veterans. And we're also running pilots in local therapy organizations and schools.
Great.
Fantastic. Great. And Daniel, you mentioned mental health as one of the first areas you explored, but your company, MediModo, is actually working on a variety of chronic illnesses and help in those interventions.
Well, not a specific chronic illness. I think all chronic illness. Okay. Just taking human-generated data and seeing what is making your condition worse or better. And so, that's our goal. And any chronic illness. So it's been a learning process, and we're still building the project. And
How long has MediModo been around then?
Well, it's been around for a while, but it used to be called QuantiModo. Then we relaunched as MediModo.
Okay.
And we developed a bit of traction. We have about 550 monthly active users and about 6,000 downloads. But yeah, we're helping people find correlations in everyday activities that relate to their chronic illness.
So is this a subscription base? Is a
so
SaaS
yeah,
model,
we're experiencing different business models, and so obviously there's like a freemium business model, there's a subscription business model, and there's another one that's like sponsorship. So we're kind of researching, but or like a two-sided business model, because we would really like to work with like in the hospitals and also with the patients outside the hospitals. But we're experimenting with these things. We don't know exactly what's going to work best for us right now.
So who's your customer? Is it the patient your customer or the physician?
Yeah, so actually we have a dashboard so the physician can also access your data that you have. And so our customer, right now we're just focused on the user. And if we get like
patient?
Well, not necessarily a patient, someone who understands they have a problem and someone looking for a solution. So that's our target market right now. So yeah, we're trying to get those people. And,
What's really great about Daniel's system is that our app is sort of an input to the MediModo system. So you can think of it as pulling in different players from the ecosystem. If I remember correctly, what I know your co-founder, Mike, what he was doing is he created an API or a programming interface for all these different data streams from applications. So I'm wearing a Fitbit, I'm using a Mindset app, and that can all flow into his system so that either the user or the doctor can better understand the patterns of behavior and all these different data streams over time. Wow. So he's like the platform that's bringing all the companies like me together in one place and making all the analytics.
Yeah, so I think wearables is a huge part of this. I think sometimes using an app for someone could seem like work. And if you can import that data easier, like through a Fitbit or something in the future that we haven't really
discovered yet.
Yeah. I mean, that maybe blood pressure, easy way to take your blood pressure, and just wearables that are taking that data and then analyzing and try to find what's working, what's not working. But yeah, the Fitbit is an amazing, I love mine and what it does. I think it's changed.
It's so funny when you meet other people and you see, what technology are they wearing?
They're wearing something.
Exactly.
And we're either paying attention to it or pretending to pay attention to it. But I think just as Elizabeth pointed out, having all that data aggregated creates a whole nother opportunity, another layer in and of itself. And we'll explore some of those layers in just a moment.
Let's just take 5 and address this stress. Are you afraid of illness or disease? Do you find it difficult to show your feelings? Are you irritated and cross without a cause? Do you experience a consistent lack of energy? Well, if you answered yes to 2 or more of these questions, you could use to reduce your stress. When we're experiencing too much lasting negative stress, we got to do something about it. The research is clear. Toxic stress is making us sick, but you can be alive and well. Find out more at aliveandwellstl.com.
Daniel Kapper from MediModo, and what I think about entrepreneurial thinking is something that needs to happen. The world needs, it's probably one of the most important things the world needs, is more entrepreneur things, more entrepreneurs and more people changing the world with technology. And so just find what you're good at and do it.
So we were just talking about how there's many layers to not only health tech in general and wearables in particular, but then what do you do with the data and how do you make it meaningful for patients and how do you make it meaningful for doctors? And I think we're just on the cusp of that because we still have a lot of questions about how accurate the devices are that we wear and what kind of conclusions can doctors draw from the different data. So as you guys are surveying the landscape, and Elizabeth, you explained that you're out doing trials. Daniel, you're more in an experimental phase where I would say you've done at least one pivot and you're probably going to do at least another one before you really have settled on your business model.
And that's true entrepreneurship,
yes,
right?
absolutely. I mean, who doesn't, right?
Right.
money. So.
Right.
And how to make money. That monetizing. Yes. Identifying the problem, developing the solution, monetizing the solution.
Exactly.
Those are all important layers. But nobody's waiting for you to figure out all these things, right? The movement in the market is just more and more data, more and more competitors. What are some of the things that you're seeing emerge as you're figuring out your piece of that work?
I would go back to wearables.
Yeah.
I think my Fitbit maybe have saved my life in a way because I realized that my resting heartbeat, and when I go for a jog, if I'm in the peak zone or the cardio zone, and why that's important to me is because I thought I was fit. I used to go to the gym all the time, and I worked out, and I looked very healthy, and you can tell I worked out. But then I played soccer. And then I could barely play the whole game.
I was going to say, were you like huffing and puffing, running up and down the field?
It was horrible. And so now I'm realizing that I wasn't in shape. And so Fitbit helps me do that. And also with MediModo, kind of integrating those things. So
I think what's interesting is that with this Internet of Things and how people are trying to get as much data back to the physician or to the healthcare system, I think the next thing that's going to be needed is how do you take all of this information and be able to condense it down? Because if you look at a physician and their workload,
and what they get paid to do versus what they may want to do.
It's very difficult, even though you're giving them all this data, for them to cull through it and being able to, see patients as well as take all of this data now and integrate it into their care.
That's a problem, I think. 'Cause,
that's a huge problem.
So I think we won't see another Facebook. We won't see another Uber. And then we know in 2020 it's going to be a huge market. And so I think there will be maybe a unicorn or some startup or company that's working well with the hospitals and doctors. And it'll probably be something that we haven't really thought about quite yet. So
I think, and that's where the opportunity exists.
Yeah, and that sounds like a challenge.
Yes.
Elizabeth. No.
I was going to say, here's our next challenge.
Do you hear things coming out of the market, though, that you feel are challenges? Like the thing that somebody says, there's no way we're going to be able to do X, or, it's going to be years before we figure out Y?
Changing physician practice is something that we touched on earlier. That's a really difficult challenge, and no one solved it. All of the EMR systems began as billing systems, and are still really monetized as billing systems. So until we find a way for those systems to become more physician and patient centric, it's going to be really difficult to change physician practice over time.
I was going to say, in a lot of hospital systems, they don't just engage one EMR system. They might have several that don't talk to each other. So,
well, exactly. If we're going to have one problem, we might as well compound it.
So I think anything that can, like you said, Elizabeth, and I think also, Daniel, when you're looking at, because data is king. I mean, as much data as you can bring to the table so that people can not only evaluate patients, but improve healthcare, but it's just being able to provide that information in some sort of beneficial opportunity.
And the demand from the consumer, because I do have this wearable on my arm, I now assume that people can do magical things with whatever data I've collected. And so whether the provider or the payer is interested in doing that, the consumer is walking in saying, tell me what you can do with this, make some conclusions.
Yes.
Make my life better, easier, and do it all faster than you ever did before.
Because if I were Fitbit, with all these people walking around with Fitbits, how much information and data are they collecting?
Well, and that, we're talking about business models now. Yeah, and clearly piqued Daniel's interest a bit here.
Yes, I see he's lighting up.
He's like, that's exactly the quandary we've been dealing with.
We got to do something with the data. And so we're making a lot of advances as a society with artificial intelligence and different algorithms. And with that data, you can do a lot of cool stuff, especially if there's a lot of data coming in. Just to analyze, find correlations, but also predicting what's going to happen in the future. And then if you can put everybody's data together and see that as a society or a whole, or even just one hospital, but if you span to other hospitals, it's just so invaluable, not just the data and plain, but what you can possibly do with that data.
Yeah. And so selling us the device is only one part of a much bigger picture in terms of what's possible in this space. You guys had also just talked about, we've got all this data so we can learn about ourselves and our population and our health and our physicians. But you guys both touched on the fact that you had a lot of learning going on even as you embarked on entrepreneurship. We've talked about having the side gig as a way of feeding that entrepreneurial spirit while you were doing perhaps, still in school or working for a company. And Daniel, you had talked about doing a lot of reading and preparing and learning as you were before you even embarked on becoming an entrepreneur. So what role did that play in your experience?
I think it played a big role. I don't know why. I think maybe it was I just really wanted to learn. Maybe it was self-help books I started, but also I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur, and there's a lot of standard books out there. You can go to the bookstore and people.
So what were you reading about? Like business or business models?
I'm reading more about business models now since I'm in this situation, but maybe just entrepreneur books. I heard you quoted Malcolm Gladwell once, I think, or at least the podcast when I was listening. So
I'm so glad he's listening and can remember.
Yeah, so just a lot of books. I mean, if you go to the bookstore, I'm trying to think of some names. But right now, I'm kind of reading about value propositions and business models and a lean startup methodology, customer development.
Sounds like you need to be going to the Square One class where you don't have to read all about it.
Well, or teaching or helping us explain the process there.
That's right.
Yeah.
But that kind of set you up to be more prepared when you actually did meet potential partners and
I also studied one thing that's kind of odd, but I think it really changed me as a person, and it's called neuro-linguistic programming.
Okay.
And so it's different styles, and what I got from it is just to be a knowledgeable person and kind of be an expert onto something. I think it changed everything, kind of how I operate. And so what that is, it's hard to explain. Well, what I got from it was now I'm kind of obsessed, or find a passion, be really good at it. And that's kind of where I got from it, because it helps you develop as a person.
That's what entrepreneurs are, right? You find something that you're really passionate about, that you really want to do. And it sounds like you did it through learning, right? Through books.
Yeah, and then there's like learning and doing nothing.
Versus learning and executing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Elizabeth, you had anthropology in your background. How has that helped when you look at your business today? Because I always believe, our history and what we learn and what we've done, it always comes to surface in some way in what we're doing. So I don't know if it has for you or not, but just interested in that.
Oh, well, anthropology was the pipe dream I had when applying to different colleges. Essentially, it never really materialized as part of my academic portfolio. But I think that what influenced me to seek anthropology is just an immense eclecticism of interests that I have. I like playing French horn and rock climbing and motorcycles and all of these things kind of...
Are you a Harley girl?
Oh, I'm not a Harley girl.
I am. My husband has a Harley, so...
Maybe if I had more money, I'd be a Harley girl. But I'm a scrappy entrepreneur.
There you go.
When I'm down on my cash, I ride my motorcycle around and deliver Postmates.
See? Postmates?
Well, it's a food delivery service.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm renting out my house for Airbnb too, which is amazing.
This is all entrepreneurship, guys. When we talk about the side hustles and everything else,
totally,
it helps to build your business, right?
Yes. Thank God for the sharing economy.
Yes,
because I have lots to share.
So
But I have it's not considered a room. It's more like a closet, but a big
closet. We won't tell anybody. No one's listening.
So there's an air mattress in there, and my guests get the larger bed. But it's good money. I mean, easy money.
It's like Uber.
Hey, and however you can fund your dream, right?
Exactly.
We're always talking about friends, family, fools, and sharing economy is now one of those, right?
Go.
Monetize what you've got, whether it's your motorcycle or your closet.
So what's in the future for DataDog? What are you guys looking at doing?
We're really looking forward to diving deeper into the physician's experience and making sure we can activate all the data that we're collecting through our app to benefit their experience with their patient.
So she wants to dive into the brain of people like you, Cheryl.
That's a scary proposition.
You said it, not me.
I mean, therapists have such a hard job, and if we can give them something quantitative and something exciting and something enabling to help them do their job better, then we make the world a better place.
Absolutely.
Good.
And what's on the horizon for MediModo and where they're at right now?
We're learning a lot from our customers, so we're just taking that input in and just focusing on our target market, just finding people that have a problem, trying to do something, and starting a small community and helping those, doing stuff that necessarily doesn't scale. But just small groups and trying to get a small community of people that are using the app and providing value, and it's solving their problem. So we're just focusing on a small kind of group of people that,
This is interesting because a lot of times I think for our listeners out here, this is what young entrepreneurs do. And I don't mean young in age.
Early stage.
Early stage entrepreneurs. I mean, you are testing. You are talking to people. You should be learning as much as you can so you can improve your product for your customer. And I think these two guests here exemplify exactly what we talk about with these early stage entrepreneurs. And you are hustling. You're out there making it work no matter what. So
what kind of advice would you give to our listeners?
Yes.
Elizabeth, what would you say to the person who is interested in everything like you are and excited by the challenge, anyone who throws down the gauntlet, but hasn't actually stepped up to the plate yet maybe on this? What would you say?
Well, I think the one thing that's really helped me and that I've learned through wonderful programs like Accelerators, Prosper Women's Accelerator,
wonderful,
an amazing local resource, is just to make sure that you set out time for yourself to kind of meta process everything that's happening. Being a CEO is much different than being a passionate side project leader, where you really have to look at all these different variables. And so if you do that in your own life before you start practicing going out by yourself, then you'll have an easier time putting pieces together and creating an embodiment of your vision. So just bring it all back to the vision.
Fantastic.
Good.
Daniel.
Yeah, just find your passion and be good at something. Yeah, so that's what I tell people. If you could be good at one thing, find your passion, even though it doesn't necessarily fit into your role, because I think they'll have so much more productivity and do such better work if we can just find their passion. And so I tell them also, just you can take what you learn in this experience anywhere and you have it your whole life.
Absolutely.
So be passionate and
be curious.
Be stupid. Don't listen to me.
Don't be curious. Be stupid.
Yeah, just don't. I think to be an entrepreneur, you just have to go against the grain.
Yeah.
Cool.
I agree.
Well, if folks want to sign up to use MediModo at this point, where can they find you?
The App Store, Android app, Chrome extension. So, yeah.
And your website is?
Your website.
MediModo.com. So, MEDIMODO.
Fabulous. And Elizabeth, where can we learn more about Mindset and DataDog Health?
Mindset-app.com.
Awesome.
There you go.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for making time to be with us today to share your stories with our listeners and help us explore new ideas.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Fun. Yes.
Changing the way you view new ventures, igniting your thinking about entrepreneurship. It's entrepreneurially thinking. Get connected and discover more. Visit our website for show notes, resources, information about our guests, upcoming events, and of course, all your favorite episodes. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them for us in the comment sections, and be sure to leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes. The best way to show love is to share. Let everybody know that you're thinking entrepreneurially. So visit our website, entrepreneuriallythinking.com. #ETHINKSTL. Entrepreneurially Thinking is another positive production of Rare Gem Productions. Thanks for listening.